The public is out there thinking it's going to be a 2% tax cap, but there's certain parts of the law that allow you to exempt things from this cap, and they are really the local share of capital projects, tertiary claims that you have to pay, and a certain portion of pension costs against the district for ERS, Employees Retirement System, and TRS, Teachers Retirement System. With these exemptions added in, even if the district was to meet the 2% tax cap, they would therefore have to request from the voters an increase above the tax cap to include these exempt amounts. That could be, they could meet the tax cap at 2%, and the exempt amounts could be worth 1% or 2% or 3%. So the big problem is going to be politically, if you can understand. They would say, folks, we've met the 2% tax cap. We are in complete compliance with the law. We're hereby asking you to consider accepting a levy of 3.7%. And people are going to go, what are you talking about? It's a 2% tax cap. And what I'm worried about is, they'll say, yeah, I know, but we're allowed these exemptions, the district says. And people go, oh, wait a minute. I thought it was a 2% tax cap. Now you're telling me you found a way around this, so, and then people may lose trust and think that we're actually trying to pull a fast one on them when it is in accordance with the law. So the district's going to have to decide, what am I going to do? Now, if I met that 2% tax cap and I had my exemptions, all I need is a 50% plus one to pass that budget. But let's just say the district makes the decision actually to meet the tax cap, even at 2%, not counting the exemptions, is problematic for us. We can't let any more reading teachers go. We've got to maintain these special ed programs. We've got to keep kindergarten. They can, if they wish, come up with a levy above 2%, but now it will require 60% of the voters that vote to pass it. Now that's a heavy lift. That's a high expectation. Especially then when you're going to add the exemptions on top of it. Now the thing could come out 6%, and people are still wondering, what are you doing? So we're a little worried about that. If that budget goes down twice, in other words, you can offer a budget and it can be defeated. They can suggest another budget, and if it's defeated, the district must go to a contingent budget. If they go to a contingent budget, their levy's not allowed to change from the previous year's levy. There'll be no increase. And the exemptions go away. They're no longer exempt. Now the district must absorb what it couldn't meet in a 2% tax cap, that amount, plus all the exemptions, which will further burden the district with further layoffs and the loss of further reserves or cash payments. They will then begin to slowly move into, or rapidly, depending upon their current financial condition, into what we call structural deficit. Now, what's a structural deficit? Structural deficit is simply this. They cannot sustain their budget with the revenues they have, so therefore they actually have a deficit spending. They will not be able to pay their bills at one point in time or throughout the whole year. So the rub is how do I actually pay people to provide my children with the required program if I cannot have enough revenue to pay for it? The first sign of structural deficit is when school districts start going to what they call RANs, Revenue Anticipation Notes, which means is that maybe I can't pay my bills during these next 3 months, but by the end of the year I'll be solvent because then all my state aid will have arrived because it doesn't come in all at once. So what happens is when people start doing a RAN, a Revenue Anticipation Note, it's usually saying to them, especially if it's to keep the district moving, saying we have cash flow problems. We don't have enough money to run this district 12 months a year like we're supposed to because we don't have enough revenues. They don't match our budget. Now the problem, of course, is it raises the question, well, is this district going broke? Well, can a district go broke? I would probably say prior to July 1, no, because the Commissioner of Education could rule, I'm hereby ordering you, district, to fulfill the requirements of the Commissioner of Education and provide the educational program required under those regulations. I hereby expect you to obey all educational laws and all the costs associated with them, and to levy the tax thereto so that you can additionally pay for any debt service that you owe that you promised to pay. And in many ways, that's what we do with a contingent budget. If in the old days when we had a contingent budget and the budget went down, we would have contingent expenses, those required by the school district, and we would levy a tax for that. Well, technically we're required to do it, but now there's this new law that doesn't quite fit the old law. that limits me to this 2% tax cap, that I can only move the levy. So now it's a catch-22. And additionally, if my budget goes down now and I have to go to that contingent expense, it's a little different ballgame because I can't change my levy. So what is a district to do? I'm guessing probably in the next 12 to 18 months, we expect probably about 100 school districts to start moving towards structural deficits slowly into that abyss. And when that becomes apparent, then what's going to happen is we're going to see that there's going to probably have to be a court case to settle how these laws will actually be adjudicated in such a way as the district will have some type of remedy or what they're supposed to actually do. Because they're going to be hard pressed for answers. In the meantime, probably over the next 30 to 36 months, we're expecting maybe another 200 districts to start moving that way. If the state aid cuts continue, if the loss of revenues continue, if the distribution of aid continues to be inequitable, and the capacity of these districts do not change in terms of being able to keep their reserves and maintain these programs. Because costs are just escalating, and no one is changing the ability for them to control.